Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how I work with a Sketchup template. I'll explain what it is and how I set it up, which saves me time when making kitchen designs. So when you start a new Sketchup model, you will get this screen show up here, and that's where you can choose which of the standard Sketchup templates you want to use, which you would have come across. So you can see you've got inches, meters, millimeters, centimeters, whichever you want, and then a few different background options. And then below that are some recent templates that I've been using. And then if you click on this little tab here, My Templates, this shows you my saved templates. And I normally use this here, Kitchen Template 1. I've done another template here just as a little example, but I normally ever use just this single one here for my kitchen designs. So you can use it to set things like the units, like decimal, inches or centimeters, millimeters, just by clicking on these options here. You can change the text size, all these sorts of things, the dimensions, how they display. You can set up as many scenes as you want, and then in each scene you can control the visibility. So, for example, you can set the style of each scene, like choose from many different sort of styles, which has their own default parameters of the ground, the sky, what colors it displays in. And then you can further customize it using the styles toolbar or the view toolbar up here. Another useful feature is you can create your own tags and save those. So here you can see I've created some. I've got annotations, cabinets, decorative, dimensions, worktops. You can add loads more as well. Just saves a bit of time. So that's a very brief overview of what you can do with the template and the different settings that you can actually save. So now I'm going to go into a bit more detail of how I set my own template up, and hopefully it will be of use to someone as well out there. You don't have to do exactly what I do, but it will give you some guidelines on it. So let's start off by showing you how I configure the toolbars and which ones I use. So if we go over to the new SketchUp model example where we've just got the Getting Started toolbar. So let's right click, and the first toolbar we're going to add is the large tool set, which should automatically snap into place on the left here. If it doesn't snap automatically, you can just put it into place. So just with your left mouse button, just click and hold in the top little bit where the title is, and then drag it into position, and there it will just snap into place. So, whoops, there we go, and then just move that up a little bit. I find the large tool set really useful because it's just got such a lot of buttons on it and things you can do just in one go, and it doesn't take up any room at the top, obviously. So if you don't mind this little bit of screen here being taken up by the toolbar, it's just really handy to have. I try to use shortcut keys as much as possible, which does the same thing as a lot of what is on here. But sometimes if I've got a bit of brain fog or I just want an easy option, the large tool set's always there if I need to use something. So let's get rid of our Getting Started toolbar now, because a lot of these, in fact all of them, are repeated on the large tool set, so we just don't need it. So just right click and then click Getting Started, and it'll disappear. So I'll start adding some toolbars from left to right along the top. So I'll start with the standard toolbar, so just find it there, left click, and I'll get rid of this little one here, which is just the Fredo corner extension, which I don't normally have. So the standard toolbar I think is a really important one to have. So you can see the icons are probably all self-explanatory. You've got add a new or start a new file, open, save, cut, copy, paste, erase, and then undo and redo, which I use all the time. I don't really use the printer a lot. The model info is quite useful. You can just quickly bring up things to change text and unit size and all this stuff here. So next, let's add the styles toolbar, which will just give you different options of how to display whatever model that you're working on. Then next I've got the views toolbar, which is down here. So obviously self-explanatory again. You can look at it from whichever angle you want. This model here has the always face the camera turned on, so that's not a really good example to use, but I think you get the idea. So let's just delete her and add a cabinet quickly. Just bring up Flex Tools. So again, you can see, going back to the styles, and then views, you've got top down, front, sides, and then from underneath. Next to that I've got the tags drop down menu, and then the only other toolbar which I've got is the V-Ray for Sketchup toolbar. V-Ray is a plugin for Sketchup which allows you to make render images. There are some other V-Ray toolbars as well which are optional, but I don't really use them on a day-to-day basis when I'm doing design, so I don't really need to display those. It's also worth mentioning for those who aren't that familiar with SketchUp yet that you don't have to have a toolbar. There's other ways to access the different functions. For example, you can go up to the extensions menu, and here are some different plugins, so I can just access them that way. Sometimes they install into the drawing or to the draw menu. But I've just got my toolbar set out to be as simple as possible, and then I rely on the shortcut keys as much as I can. That way it just gives me more screen space to do actual modelling, and I normally only work on a laptop because I travel around a lot, so screen space is more important to me than having loads of tools everywhere. So now we've got our toolbars in place, let's start adding some scenes. To add the first scene, you need to go to Window on the top menu, click that, it'll bring up the drop down menu, go to Default Tray and Show Tray. I've got a shortcut key for that, but you can bring it up any way you want. Go to the Scenes tab, click the little arrow so you get the drop down menu, and then just click on this plus button here. You can give it a name if you want to, but I normally just leave it as Scene 1, and I use this as my main 3D working scene. So the first thing I want to change is the style of the scene, which controls the overall look and feel of it. So things like the sky color and the ground, the thickness of the lines of the model that you're working with, all of these can be changed manually, but the style just gives you a way to do it all in one as a whole set. And I don't particularly like this bright blue sky. I find it a bit off-putting. I prefer to work with something a bit more subtle. So what we do is on the default tray we go down to Styles, which is this tab here, and then you want to make sure that you're on Default Styles, and then the one I would use is this woodworking style here, and that way there is no sky, it's all a sort of monochrome background, and I just find it a bit simpler to work that way. So just before we save that style, I just want to show you, if you go up to View on this menu here, you can turn on and off things like the axis and basically everything that's listed here, the edge style, the face style. You can put shadows on if you want, or turn those off. I normally have them turned off because I find the model slows down a little bit if you've got it turned on. So anyway, now we've got it as we want it, or as I want it. I'll go up to the scene, right click, and then left click Update, and that saved the scene. And just a reminder, this is going to be the scene that I'll use to do all the 3D work, adding the cabinets and whenever I want a 3D view of something. So next I'm going to add another scene, which is going to be our top-down view, which we're going to use for working in 2D. And I've got another file open just to show you an example of how that will look, which is this here. So as well as working here and adding cabinets and moving them around, it will also serve as a final floor plan as well when we want to present it to the client, where we can put the annotations as well. So let's go back to the file. To create the scene, we can either press this plus button here again, or if your default tray is closed for some reason, you can also right click any scene and then left click add, and it does the same thing. So we'll right click and rename the scene now. So I'm going to call, then we set the viewpoint. So we want a top down view, which from the view toolbar up here is this cube icon. And as you might see, the blue axis is sort of doing a funny thing. So we're actually in we're actually in perspective mode, and we need to be in parallel projection. So just to demonstrate the difference with that, here we've got an existing plan in parallel projection mode, and if I change it to perspective, you'll see that it becomes sort of 3D like that. Well, perspective mode basically. So we go to the camera and we change it back to parallel projection, and that's what we want. It's just much clearer for working with and for presenting. So we go back to our setup process and camera, parallel projection, and that's what we want. Next I want to change the style of the scene, so we need to bring up the default tray, and here we are with the style tabs open, and the one we want is, where is it now? Yeah, this one here, hidden line. So we click that. Then I want to get rid of the axis, so we go to view and uncheck the axes check mark. Let's quickly update that. And then the last thing we want to do is click this little blue cube here, which is X-ray mode, which I find easier to work with. You can see through the objects, but it also makes it easier to snap to things, other cabinets and to walls, etc. So then we're going to right click and update the scene again, so it saves all of those properties, and give the file a quick save. So these are the two scenes which I have in my template. I could add renders and other sort of working scenes, but I just build it out as I go along, and I just have these two basic ones to start with. So I've got my 2D, and if I click on scene 1, we've got our 3D. You can see also there that the animation's turned on, which I don't like because it just takes ages to flick between scenes. So I like to turn that off. And to do that, you can just click on this information button here, click animation, and then uncheck enable scene transitions. So now if we flick between the two scenes, we don't have the animation. It's just a much quicker, easier way to work. So I'm going to bring our model info pop-up window visible again. So just to go through a couple of things as well while we're at it. So if we go to units at the bottom, at the moment I'm in inches, which is okay if you're in the States, but over here in the UK we work with decimal, so you can change it here. I don't need any decimal points on that because a millimeter rounded is enough. So we don't need to change anything there. You can change the snapping here if you want, but again, just leave it set on that. The text size I would normally change to 7. Here it's 12 as standard. So you can just click on fonts, and then I just type in there, and then that was the leader line text, and this is the standard text. And again, if we go to my example model, you can see that all these annotations are in size 7 font. So it's small enough to be usable, but large enough to be readable as well. So let's go back to our model info, and the rest of these things you don't really need to change. It's just the animation, the text, and the units. So next I want to create some tags in the model. If we go up to our tags drop down little menu here, you can see we haven't got any tags created yet. So let's bring up the default tray and find tags. Here we are. So yeah, we've just got this untagged thing. So all you need to do to create new tags, just press the little plus button, and we'll have one tag as dimensions, and let's have another tag annotations, and then you could have And then going to have another tag for worktops and decorative items, which I find useful. And you add as many things as you want there. You could have cabinets, you could have handles. It depends on how you prefer to work, but I don't have too many tags in my scene, but I can always add some more as I go along if I need to. But we can keep these as our default template tags. And so now if we minimize that, you can see that they're now in our drop down menu. So if we want to assign something, we just click on it and then assign it this way. And so the only other thing that I use in the templates is I add some materials so I don't have to keep creating them each time when I make a new model. So if I go into in model, we've only got the standard SketchUp colors here. And so if I switch to the template which I actually use, the one that's already set up, you can see that in the model I've got some tiles, I've got some flagstone floor tiles, I've got some oak which I use for worktops, I've got some quartz, two kinds of quartz actually, and then just a wall and a door and window frame. I probably could do with some more added into my standard template, but those do the job for now. So if we go back to the template that we're setting up, I'm just going to pull up the default tray again. And so these colors here are actually left over from the figure which appears at the start of a SketchUp model when you open it. So it's this nice lady here. So the colors are just like the skin, the hair, the shirt and clothes, and the cat colors. But let's go back to the template, and I'm now going to open V-Ray, which is the render program which I use to create colors. So all of this Heather hair, Heather hat, etc. we can get rid of, and Lily the cat. So we just shift and left click and then hit the delete button, confirm the delete. So all of those colors are now gone from the model. So I'm just going to quickly add a quartz color to the model with the V-Ray plugin. I won't go into too much detail at the moment, we'll save that for another day. So if we click on stone and marble, let's put this quartz lagoon. So we literally just drag it into the model. And now if we open our SketchUp materials and we go down to, yeah, there we are, materials, we can see that that's been put into the model now, quartz lagoon. So I just keep repeating that process with the with all the colours that the materials I want, like the wood flooring, like the chrome handles colour, all that sort of thing. Just basically all the materials which I use on a normal kitchen design. And once you've done it once on the template, it means every time you open a new model it'll already be there and you haven't got to do it again. So that's pretty much that sorted for the template. That's everything I need to save. There are loads of other options you could change if you wanted to, but that's all I need. So now we can save it. Just before we do that, let's delete these cabinets so we can always start from a blank model. And all you need to do is click on File, left click Save as Template, and then give it a name. Let's call it Kitchen Template New. If you want, you can make a description here. So if you create 2 or 3 different templates for different kinds of kitchens, then you can do that and save it. So now when we open a new SketchUp model, just come down here, just wait for that to load up. You can see our new template pops up here. These are just sort of the recent templates that we've used. But if you can't see it, just click on More Templates, go to My Templates, and there it is, Kitchen Template New. So you can click on that and start modelling out your kitchen. So I hope that's of help and will save you time in the future.